Welcome to another installment of the BRSCC Mazda Super Cups. We're here at one of the drivers' favourite circuits, Anglesey. Now, with it being a coastal circuit, the weather has been a bit thoughtful this morning. It's been chucking it down with rain, but it is looking like the sun's breaking through those clouds. Now, we do have first blood going to Jack Harding, which I'm quickly going to catch up with. Jack, obviously, race one's about to get underway. You're leading, Luke's right behind you. How do you feel?
Yeah, we did really good qualifying. In the extreme wet, I think Luke's definitely got the edge, and it's very, very close up the front. But as the track was drying in qualifying, we definitely had the edge. I think we qualified over half a second on pole, so no, it was really good. So we'll just see what we can do in this race, really.
I've got to ask, what setup are you looking for today?
I have no idea, really. I mean, at the moment, the track's drying. It's just going to be one of those. It's whoever makes the right decision, whether to go full dry setup or half and half or even wet. But it's just going to be a gamble. Probably the person who wins it will be the person who chose the right setup. So we'll see how we get on, but we'll definitely try and win it.
Lovely. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Good luck in this race. Right, we're going to hand it straight on over to Andy to run you through the rest of this grid.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, this should be a fascinating race then for the MX5 Super Cup, with the MX5 Super Series on the same grid as well. The Super Cup element, headed by Jack Harding with Luke Herbert alongside. James Blake Baldwin makes a welcome return. He's third alongside Aidan Hills. Then Steve Roberts and Will Stacey ahead of Patrick Fletcher and Jack Sycamore. Then it's Nick Rutter and Gary Townsend, Nick Dunn and Paul Sheard, with David Henderson and Chris Richardson rounding out the Super Cup runners. Joe Marshall-Burks has James Kell alongside, by the way, on the front row of the Super Series element of the grid. Remember, those drivers do not score points. They're here just for a series of races. Simon Fleet and Darren Kell are next, ahead of Jeremy Crook and Declan Lee. Then Matt Pickford and Simon Orange. Clive Powell's has Natalie Brooks alongside, ahead of Xavier Brook and Russ Lindsay. Then Liz Walton, David O'Reilly and Chris Lindley round out the field. So, championship-wise in the Super Cup, Luke Herbert has an 8-point championship lead over Jack Harding coming into this race, but Harding has the pole position. This will be a fascinating race between the two of them. Lights out, away they go. Who gets into the first corner first? It's Luke Herbert with a brilliant start from the outside of row one, and Jack Harding goes nowhere. He's going to be swamped. On the inside goes Blake Baldwin, to the outside goes Aidan Hills, and James Blake Baldwin will come out of all of that in second position, with Luke Herbert, the race leader, already starting to scamper away. So not a great start for Harding. He's trying to fight back now around the outside at the banking. He will not get into second, but he will at least fend off Aidan Hills for third place. The whole field launches through the first couple of corners together, and the Super Series there at the back. As I said, they're not scoring points, but they're still out there racing, and it's great to have a full field of some 30-odd MX5s out on track together again. So Harding third, Hills over the inside there for fourth position, trying to find a way through. And can he do it? He's got the outside line up towards the Rocket Complex. He's going to try and break as late as he can. Blake Baldwin snatches a break in front. Oh, there's contact with Jack Harding. Jack Harding is sideways off the road, goes Aidan Hills in avoidance. And that was absolute drama between two of the big championship rivals, Aidan Hills and Jack Harding. It was triggered by contact between Harding and, like I said, the locking up James Blake Baldwin. But it was Harding that seemed to come off worse. And Aidan Hills, unfortunately, had to take to the grass to avoid T-boning him. And that's all played beautifully now into the hands of Luke Herbert. The points leader is the race leader as well, and is starting to pull away. Well, what drama then. That really was not in the script at all for Harding and Hills. They've got some real work to do now. Hills, there you can see, is just in front of Jack Harding. They're both going up the inside of Jack Sycamore now, the 91 machine, into the hairpin. And that was the last thing either of those two drivers needed. They've got to try and take some points out of Luke Herbert this weekend to stop him extending this championship margin, and that's not the way to go about it. Now, Aidan Hills has got himself past Jack Sycamore. Back in the Super Series, by the way, oops, that's Simon Orange losing a wing mirror, and Matt Pickford taking full advantage of the wayward moment to move through. These two fighting within the midfield element of the Super Series part of the grid, so they're not outright front runners. James Kell and Joe Marshall-Burks are the top two in Super Series at the moment, I can tell you. James Kell, who won the season opener at Brands Hatch before probably throwing the car into the tyre wall in race 2 when he was leading. Meanwhile, Jack Harding is really applying the pressure. He couldn't get any closer to the back of Aidan Hills, but Aidan's always going to defend the inside line. Harding to the outside, he's late on the brakes. This is where it all went wrong for him on the opening lap, though. Well, it's where it went wrong for both of them, I suppose, on the opening lap, but this time they just about keep it clean, and Harding has gone through, and that was a significant move championship-wise. Both of these drivers could do with the points, but you also sense that they can maybe do with working together here to try and close in on the top three, but there's no sense of that just yet. They're very much racing each other, and Harding is into fourth position. Now, can Aidan Hills fight back? feisty racer, doesn't really back down from an argument and likes to get stuck in, and look at that, forces the mistake instantly from Jack Harding, who gets on that damp patch that caught out Will Stacey and Patrick Fletcher earlier on in the race, and moves back, or drops back behind Aiden Hills, who's back into 4th place now. Aiden hunting for grip a bit there, I think, at the hairpin as well. It's an interesting battle this between the two of them. James Blake Baldwin down to the final corner is looking good now for his first victory, and the first person this year to win a race who is not called Luke Herbert, Jack Harding or Aiden Hills. Through they go, on to the final lap of the race, and Luke Herbert, look, has just set the new fastest lap, 1:44.927. That is worth 2 championship points. Now that's crucial, because even if he finishes 2nd place, for 2nd place you score 98 points. For a win, you score 100. But if you finish 2nd with the fastest lap, you score the same amount of points as if you won the race, so it's 100 points essentially. Obviously, if he'd have won with fastest lap, that's worth 102, but still, Luke Herbert has done this quite a few times this year. He finished 2nd with the fastest lap on 1, 2, 3 occasions this year. So if you can't win, at least try and finish 2nd with the fastest lap. That seems to be the philosophy, and that means that Luke Herbert has arrived here with 596 points. Well, if he'd have won all 6 races and not set a fastest lap, he would have only scored 4 more points than that. So Herbert has been the master of consistency, but he's also very good at banging in these quick laps, and that's exactly what he's done again here today on the Anglesey International Circuit. It's not going to be enough, though, I don't think, for him to find a way back onto the tail of Blake Baldwin, or is it? He is closing in on this final lap. He's really pushing on. Blake Baldwin do this? Can he hang on to the race victory? Steve Roberts is on for another podium as well here. That's a good result for him, potentially. Steve Roberts, that would only be his 2nd podium finish of the year as well, but it would repeat the 3rd place from race 1 at Alton Park last time. Continuing to close in here, but I think it's too little too late. They're going down towards the final corner now of the final lap, and it looks as though the first race of the weekend here at Anglesey, round number 7 of the 2019 Mazda MX5 Super Cup, will be won by the returning James Blake Baldwin. A fantastic drive for James, and I think he's quite happy with that. Luke Herbert comes home 2nd and is only 0.3 of a second back at the flag, with Steve Roberts in 3rd position, taking some decent championship points as well. Brilliant race that was then, and James Blake Baldwin with the race victory. As I said, it might be too little for him to get into championship contention now, but he'll take the silverware nonetheless. 2nd place for Herbert, 3rd is Roberts. Aiden Hills 4th gets the better of Jack Harding, but they both lose points to their big rival. Will Stacey, Jack Sycamore, Patrick Fletcher, Paul Sheard and Gary Townsend round out the top 10, ahead of Nick Rutter, David Henderson and Chris Richardson, whilst Nick Dunn is a non-finisher. In the Super Series, by the way, it was James Kell who took home the race victory, with Joe Marshall-Burke's 3.7 seconds back. Clyde Powell's was 3rd. Simon Fleet and Darren Kell round out the top 5, ahead of Xavier Brook, Declan Lee, Jeremy Crook, Simon Orange and Matt Pickford. Then Russ Lindsay, Natalie Brooks, David O'Reilly, whilst Liz Walton and Chris Lindley were a lap down at the flag.
Race 2 is about to get underway here at Anglesey, and the weather conditions have completely changed from yesterday. Now, race 2 is a bit different from race 1 because this goes off our 2nd fastest qualifying time for the guys, not who finishes first in race 1. So we have Steve Roberts on pole, Aiden Hill in 2nd and Jack Harding in 3rd. Now we also have Luke Herbert down in 5th, so this is going to be an interesting race to watch. Now I just want to quickly catch up. Steve, so obviously this goes off your 2nd best qualifying time. Weather conditions completely different from yesterday. What's your game plan?
Game plan is to get a good start and just get my head down and try and do qualifying lap after qualifying lap and pull away while the rest battle. That's the game plan. I doubt it'll be like that.
Well, you're not a stranger from the podium with these guys. You do throw a bit of a spanner in the works, so should we expect something exciting?
Yeah, I'm hoping to become throughout the year more than a spanner in the works, but I've got to get more consistent and stop making the errors. So today is just about getting my head down. If I can get the win, I'll get the win. I just want solid results.
Brilliant. Well, we wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, cars grinning up then ahead of this 2nd race of the weekend. Steve Roberts and Aiden Hills sharing the front row with Harding and Baldwin row 2. And this time, Luke Herbert has to come from the 3rd row alongside Will Stacey. Nick Dunn and Patrick Fletcher are on row 4 together. Jack Sycamore and Gary Townsend, meanwhile, round out the top 10. Ahead of Paul Sheard, Nick Rutter, David Henderson, and Chris Richardson at the back. Then we get the Super Series competitors. Again, they start behind the Super Cup, so they've got some work to do, but they made good progress in the previous race. James Kell and Joe Marshall-Burks again share the front row ahead of Clive Powells and Simon Fleet. Then Darren Kell and Javier Brook with Declan Lee and Jeremy Crook on the fourth row. Simon Orange and Matt Pickford had a good dice in race 1. They share the fifth row in race 2, with Russ Lindsay and Natalie Brooks next. Then David O'Reilly, Liz Walton and Chris Lindley bring up the rear of the Super Series grid. So, points-wise, Herbert now has a 16-point advantage over Jack Harding, but he is only 4 ahead of Aidan Hills, so it's not inconceivable here that Aidan from the front row could move into second place in the championship. We've got onboard cameras with the pair of them, and our points leader Luke Herbert there from 5th on the grid. Lights out, down towards the first corner they go. Good start appears to have been made by Herbert, but there's nowhere for him to go. He's on the inside of Will Stacey. Can he get past Jack Harding as well? There's contact between the leading two there. Aidan Hills and Steve Roberts already getting to it, and that seemed to delay Roberts more than the Hills, really. Blake Baldwin trying to turn in across the bows of Luke Herbert, and well, where was Luke Herbert supposed to go? That was very... Oh, Roberts is off! Steve Roberts is off! I didn't notice that because I was focusing on what was going on between the two blue cars, but Steve Roberts is off the road, and unfortunately the plan that he laid out to Lindsay pre-race of getting the lead and pulling away, well, this couldn't really be further from that plan because he's almost right at the back of the field. Running wide, meanwhile, is number 56, that was, I think, wasn't it? Which would be... 58, sorry, Nick Dunn, excuse me, the red machine running wide from 7th on the grid, and it's another dramatic start. Will Stacey's off the road now at Rocket by the looks of it. There's number 96 going through, that's Chris Richardson, towards the tail end of the Super Cup grid. Again, Super Series car starting to intermingle. Well, there's Will Stacey on the inside of Joe Marshall-Burks, so Will Stacey, the blue machine, just there. Has also lost ground there with that off at Rocket. At the head of the field then, what's the order? Well, it looks as though it's Hills, Harding, and Herbert, the top 3. Who'd have guessed it? They finally got themselves to the top of the tree, with Blake Baldwin down to 4th. I don't quite know what was going on between Blake Baldwin and Luke Herbert at the banking there, but it did look as though Blake Baldwin was particularly keen to get to the inside there. And our hands out of the cockpit, there are yellow flags, and that's because we're getting a safety car, I think, for Matt Pickford, who's had a rotation at the banking. And so the safety car is being called for, and that will put this battle on ice then for the time being. It's a shame, because that was, as I suggested, just starting to hot up, but the car clearly in a precarious position. The safety car is indeed out, and so we will halt racing momentarily. That should only be for a lap, I reckon, because Pickford's car is already really out of the way. They just need to get Matt himself to a safe place, and then we should be able to go racing once more. Safety car has returned to the pit lane. The race is back underway. Now, who's on their toes and who has had their rhythm disrupted by that safety car? Well, Aidan Hills has long gone. Puts his foot down, gets the field back up to racing speed again. Out onto the pit straight they go, but Luke Herbert and Jack Harding, more to the point, are right on his tail. First corner again, Harding there in second position. We get the Herbert's eye view, dropping down the gears into the banking. Oh, Townsend's on the grass, that's not good, gathers it together, but he had to lift off the throttle, and so Marshall-Burks will go through now, and James Kell will probably get a better exit from the banking as well, and might be able to attack at Church Corner. So he did get a better exit, but he's not going to be able to draw alongside. Meanwhile, behind, Nick Dunn is on the inside of David Henderson. They are the two Super Cup contenders. Again, the place doesn't quite change hands. Kell's turn to be on the grass this time, as Marshall-Burks once again gets in the slipstream, gets a good exit from Church Corner, pulls alongside Will Stacey, who could do without this really, but Marshall-Burks has got him this time. Now, back with race leaders, Jack Harding has got Aidan Hills in his sights. He looks a little bit quicker at this stage of the race, down the hill, ignoring the spectacular view of the Irish Sea and the Snowdonia mountain range, and Jack Harding is focusing on one thing only, and that is getting the race lead away. He gets to the inside, a bit sideways there for Aidan Hills. They're both slow off the corner though, and Luke Herbert gives the nudge there to Aidan Hills to help him hold on to the race lead, but he had to go one way. He chose to go to the right. That was the inside line for the hairpin, and will that allow Luke Herbert to maybe take second place away or not? He might just get the race lead. In fact, Harding's on the grass. Oh, Jack Harding runs wide, bounces on the grass, and through goes Blake Baldwin as well, and they are more championship championship. Points going begging that Jack Harding can little afford to lose. We're on lap 10 now, and we're going down towards the final corner, and Herbert, now that he's not under so much pressure from behind, is very much attacking for the race lead. Aidan Hills goes in on the tight line. He's slow off the corner, almost gets run into by Luke Herbert as they go onto the pit straight. Across the start-finish line they will go, and onto the final lap of the race. 5 cars, absolutely nose to tail for the race lead, and only one of them can win it. Only 3 of them can stand on the podium. Will it be our big 3 championship contenders, or will James Blake Baldwin or maybe even Jack Sycamore spring a surprise out of this one? Aidan Hills so far is valiantly hanging on to the race lead, but will he be able to do it to the flag? Jack Harding up the inside of Luke Herbert. Church Corner is not really an overtaking opportunity, and he discovered that there, had to back out of it. Up the hill they go then. Herbert pulling out of the slipstream nice and early. Goes to the right-hand side of the road. That's the outside line for Rocket. There's half a lap to go. And Luke Herbert's going for the race lead. Aidan Hills is late on the brakes though. Will either of them get stopped for the corner? No! They both go straight on. Aidan Hills is on the grass. Luke Herbert is on the grass. And Jack Harding, out of nowhere, will come through to take the race lead. That was... I cannot believe what I've just seen. Luke Herbert and Aidan Hills, so preoccupied were they with fighting each other for the race win. They have just handed it to Jack Harding on a plate, and they are points that particularly Luke Herbert did not want to be giving away. So Harding gets the lead. James Blake Baldwin now in second place has 2 corners left to try and wrestle it away from him, and Jack Sycamore is on for his first ever podium finish in the MX5 Super Cup, and he inherits it because the top 2 in the championship have both just flown off the road at Rocket, debating the race lead. It's been a fantastic race this. It built and built and built. I said that it was a pressure cooker race, and finally the lid was well and truly blown off with half a lap to go, and Herbert and Hills will be kicking themselves all the way to the checkered flag now. About to take the checkered flag though for the 3rd time this year is Jack Harding, who makes up for missing out on the podium in race 1. He takes the victory in round number 8 of the championship. James Blake Baldwin is 2nd, and Jack Sycamore gets himself his first ever podium. Luke Herbert 4th, Aidan Hills 5th, Patrick Fletcher 6th, then Paul Sheard. Steve Roberts recovered to 8th. That was a great drive, with Nick Dunn and Gary Townsend rounding out the top 10, ahead of David Henderson, Will Stacey, Nick Rutter and Chris Richardson in 14th position. In the Super Series, it was a fairly comfortable victory in the end for Joe Marshall-Burke. James Kell, 7.5 seconds back this time. Simon Fleet was 3rd, Jeremy Crook 4th, then Darren Kell rounds out the top 5, ahead of Xavier Brook, Simon Orange, Declan Lee, Russ Lindsay, and the rest behind. It was a fantastic race, though, across both classes, particularly in the Super Cup, where Jack Harding takes the race victory.
Jack, massive congratulations. That was a really tough race out there. Can you quickly talk me through it?
Yeah, our car was set up to come on pretty early because we knew we needed to get through. And we was really strong, probably the fastest on track, pulled the gap on Luke, caught onto the back of Aidan, and then safety car came out, which kind of spoiled it a little bit for us. After safety car, we'll give it a good go again. Managed to get alongside Aidan, but then just wrong place, wrong time. Got pushed. Luke pushed Aidan through and ended up on the outside and lost 3 positions in one corner, so I dropped back to 4th. But then after that, managed to get back up to a podium place, and then on the last lap, I knew something was going to go off, and Aidan and Luke just fighting up the top corner and just outbrake themselves and kind of handed me the win. So yeah, I was due a little bit of luck, so it's great.
3rd and final race here at Anglesey Circuit, and we have the Super Cups going out first with a gap, and then the Super Series. Now, with the Super Cup having a ball draw, it's mixed up the podium a little bit, so we have Aidan Hills actually going in 2nd position. Now, I have a strong feeling after talking to some of the guys in the paddock that Aidan's going to take this win. Andy, what do you think?
Well, Lindsay, he could certainly do with one, couldn't he, after the issues in the previous race, shall we call them. He's now 24 points off the championship lead. For the 2nd meeting in a row, though, it's Patrick Fletcher that gets drawn on pole position for race 3, with Hills alongside. Herbert and Sycamore share row 2, ahead of James Blake Baldwin and Jack Harding, then Paul Sheard and Steve Roberts. Nick Dunn and Gary Townsend round out the top 10. The 6th row is David Henderson and Will Stacey, with Nick Rutter and Chris Richardson at the back of the Super Cup grid. It's been a winner piece in Super Series for Joe Marshall-Burks and James Kell. They share the front row. There is no grid reversal in Super Series, by the way. Simon Fleet and Jeremy Crook are on row 2, ahead of Darren Kell and Xavier Brook, then Simon Orange and Declan Lee on the 4th row. David O'Reilly and Natalie Brooks are on row 5, row 6 for Liz Walton and Chris Lindley, whilst Clyde Powells and Matt Pickford were both in strife in the previous race and share the back row. So for the final time this weekend then, we're about to go racing. The red lights will go out. Now, away we go. And Aiden Hills from the outside of row 1 just wants to get the lead and disappear into the distance if he can. Jack Harding gets his nose well and truly cut off on the run towards the first corner, but it will be Hills that takes the lead, and Luke Herbert out of, well, third on the grid, I suppose, because of his issues in the previous race. He actually started higher up the grid than he usually would for race 3, but he's into second already. Fletcher down to third, side-by-side-ish for fourth place. I think that will be Blake Baldwin fourth, and then Paul Sheard and Jack Sycamore mating fifth place, and Sheard gets elbowed onto the grass and not only loses fifth, but also sixth place to Jack Harding as well. Out of Church Corner then, up the school straight they go. Aiden Hills doing his very best here to pull away at the head of the field, but that, as we know, is easier said than done. Up towards Rocket they go. Harding needing to try and make progress as well. We often see in these reverse grid races that it's the driver that gets through the pack the quickest that tends to pull away and win it, but a bit like Alton Park, here at Anglesey, already we've got 2 of the big 3 out in front, Hills and Herbert. Jack Harding is the one then that has not really made the progress he'd have liked, because of course he had further to come from. He won the previous race, therefore started 6th for this one, whereas these big 2 championship rivals both started inside the top 3, so Harding, with some work to do here, needs to try and get past these cars as quickly as he can. That will give him hope though. That's Patrick Fletcher bouncing over the grass from third, drops 1, 2 and probably 3 positions there to Jack Harding on the run to the hairpin. Paul Sheard might even get him as well under braking. He's certainly later on the brakes, but he's on the outside line, and Fletcher will at least hang on to 6th place. Harding then up on spot into P5 now. Down the hill again. And Aiden Hills trying his best to pull away here, led most of race 1, led all of race 1 apart from the final half a lap really. When in spectacular circumstances he lost the race lead, he fell all the way down to 5th place. And down the hill they come, and Harding it is that's going on the attack, looking to the inside of Luke Herbert, who moved across to defend, and Harding gets sideways. Now, did he get into the back of Luke Herbert there? I think they just avoided contact, and he's sideways again on the exit of the turn, as we do now see the last lap board, and James Blake Baldwin goes for 3rd place. James Blake Baldwin, well, now we really are in exactly the same situation we were with a lap to go in race 2, with Harding down in 4th, Blake Baldwin 3rd, and Herbert and Hills debating the race lead. Will we have a repeat of what happened in race 2? And now I wonder, well, that seems hard to believe. Herbert waving at someone. I don't really think any of them are paying any attention to you now though, Luke. The time for working together has gone. Now it's time for the gloves to come off and to settle the race victory. Aiden Hills, who desperately needs this race victory. Blake Baldwin, by the way, has the fastest lap at the moment, so right now, this would actually be a gain of 2 points for Aiden Hills over Luke Herbert, but only if he can hang on. Harding is into 3rd place now, ahead of James Blake Baldwin, by the way, but it's nose to tail for the race leaders. They've got through Rocket cleanly this time, though, and now there is just a 1/3 of a lap to go, and that's all that is standing between Aiden Hills and his 3rd race victory of the season, which would actually ironically mean that he and Jack Harding now both have more wins than Luke Herbert does, but Herbert is still the points leader, and he knows that a 2nd place finish will be enough for him to keep a very healthy margin. In fact, as things stand now, he would be 14 points clear of Jack Harding, heading to the next round of the championship at Crofts. Down towards the braking zone they come, though. He's going to have a go up the inside. No, didn't even think about it. That was telling. Has Luke Herbert settled for 2nd place, or is he going to try and have a last-minute dive up the inside at the final corner? He gets a good exit from the hairpin, but not good enough. Look at that. Hills is getting away from us. There's a back marker up in the distance, which hopefully won't distract them too much. That's Chris Lindley in the Super Series number 20. Onto the brakes, through the final corner. Checkered flag is waiting, and round number 9 of the Mazda MX5 Super Cup will be a drag race to the start-finish line. But Aiden Hills is celebrating already because he has won for the 3rd time this year. Aiden Hills takes the race victory. Luke Herbert is 2nd, and Jack Harding is 3rd. The big 3 are back on the podium together. Blake Baldwin 4th, from Jack Sycamore 5th. Then Steve Roberts, Patrick Fletcher, Paul Sheard, Will Stacey, and Gary Townsend rounding out the top 10. Then David Henderson and Chris Richardson, the last of your Super Cup finishers. In Super Series, it was an equally dramatic race that in the end went to Darren Kell, with Simon Orange and Clyde Powell's breathing down his neck to the flag. Simon Fleet was down to 4th in the end, Declan Lee 5th, then Javier Brook, Jeremy Crook, David O'Reilly, Natalie Brooks and Liz Walton. In Super Cup though, it may be the win for Aiden Hills, but it's Herbert who leaves Anglesey the points leader. There is confirmation of the points then, an 8-point lead for Herbert over Harding, with Hills 3rd, Roberts 4th and Stacey 5th. When drop scores come into account, Roberts and Stacey will gain, but they're still some way back.